I feel like I'm seated amongst royalty. We have a future college football Hall of Fame coach. We've got a member of the Virginia Tech Sports Hall of Fame here. It's good to welcome you to Blacksburg and schmooze a little Hokies football with you this morning.
Well, I appreciate the welcome. I really do. It's been, as you know, a whirlwind. It's been 2 days, but it feels like about 2 weeks with all the things that we've been able to do, and the excitement and the energy has been really awesome for me and my family. But obviously a lot of work still to do.
A lot of work. This has been such a transformational 90 days for Virginia Tech athletics, specifically football, and same for you as well. So let's start with this. Why get right back in and coach, and why the Hokies? Why are you here at Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think you guys know and other people know, the way my contract was, I didn't have to coach, right? I think there's power in that, right? That, you're just choosing to do something because that's what you want to do and that's what you love and that's who you are. So I took some time. It was a couple days that were a tough couple days, to be completely honest, on me and my family. And then you just start to say, okay, what's next, right? And me and my wife plan on buying a Sprinter van at some point and driving around the country and enjoying ourselves. But I don't think I'm ready for that yet. And after spending 2 weeks with her, she doesn't want to do it with me yet. We've been married for 20 years, and we got a really good marriage and a successful family. And I think a big part of that is I'm gone 18 to 20 hours a day, right? So, we said, what's the next thing? And the next thing was we want to coach. It's a big part of our family. The players have been big brothers to my daughters. Less big brother anymore because they're similar ages now, but that's been a big part of my daughters' lives. And then obviously when it comes to Virginia Tech, this is a place that I grew up not only as a player, but also as a young coach, with a ton of respect for, whether it was Michael Vick or whether it was Enter the Sandman or whether it was, I said the, and I'm not supposed to do that, I know, sorry.
We thought you were going to say Mike Burnup, but he
correct.
Great tight end back in the day.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Before you were born.
I love it. No, I love it. So then we just started looking into Virginia Tech, and what became very obvious right away is this place has recognized, okay, we're not where we want to be, right? We're not where we want to be, and now let's come up with a plan, a very detailed plan of how we're going to invest and how we're going to get back to being the Virginia Tech that we all want to be. So that became very obvious right away. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of these schools that reached out, that separated Tech. Tech had an obvious plan. Whit Babcock and the committee had a plan. And a lot of these schools were still figuring it out. So that got us excited about what this place could be again with the right investment.
Yeah, you talked about that alignment. Alignment was a word used often in a press conference. And why is that so important today in college football's landscape, and in particular, maybe your relationship with Whit?
Yeah, so I think college football is harder and more challenging than it's ever been for a lot of different reasons, right? For a lot of different reasons, whether it's the transfer portal or NIL. There's so many things that make it challenging. So I guess what I'm saying is the only way to win at the very, very highest level, you got to be willing to compete in everything. And a lot of programs and a lot of places, they pick and choose what they want to be competitive in. All right, we're going to be competitive in facilities, or we're going to be competitive in the coaching staff or scheme or development or whatever, but they don't say we got to compete in everything, right? And the reality is, in today's college football at the very highest level, it's not what you have, because everybody has. It's what you're lacking that makes it obvious. If you're a national recruit and you're going to visit all the top programs in the country, they're going to expect a certain level of football facilities and how it looks, feels, smells, and operates. Got to be big time, every aspect of it. And if you're not there, those things you're lacking stand out and make it obvious. And whether you agree with it or not, those investments show a commitment, right? So when you talk about alignment, there's things that are financial decisions that have to be made, but there's also some philosophical that don't cost the university a dime, but maybe things that we haven't want to do in the past, right? So being able to know that I can pick up the phone and call the rector, or I can call some significant donors, or I can call the president, or I can call the AD, or I wouldn't take the job until I spoke to the governor. Like, I want to talk to all these people, because for us to go where we want to go, it's going to take everybody pulling the rope in the same direction. And I know in Lane Stadium that's happening, but it's got to be broader than that for us to go where we want to go.
You made a fascinating statement in your introductory press conference talking about transformational versus transactional, and why that is really important with what you want here and is key for a successful program. Why is that?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. There are programs that are just transactional that are very successful. But if you're going to be just transactional, then you have to have the most money, the best facilities, and it's just a hired gun. You're bringing in an assassin to do a job. And that's not how I came up in this industry. That's not what I want to be a part of. I still feel like you can do this in a way that college football's always been done. You know, like Frank Beamer did, relationships, development, caring about kids, caring about the community. You can still have a transformational impact on kids where they can get a degree that's going to set them up for success for the next 50 years. You can use the game of football to teach life lessons that are going to allow them to be successful. But in today's college football, there's still a financial or business part of this now as well. And you can't fight that, right? The game has changed. We got to be bold and aggressive and change with it. And I don't think, like anything, whether it's politics, anything, you don't want to be in extremes, right? You got to balance both worlds. And I think there's a way to do that. So we've embraced the transactional aspect of college football, but I'm a transformational coach. We're going to run a transformational program, but I'm also not going to cover my eyes and cover my ears and not embrace what's new about college football. So that's something that's very important to me. I want to go to a school that aligns with that as well, and it makes it difficult, but I think we're able to do that. And I think, you know, at my last place, we were doing that at a pretty high level and a pretty consistent basis. So we're going to try to replicate some of those things. It's got to be specific to Virginia Tech, but we're going to try to replicate some of those things.
Coach, let's talk recruiting. What is your plan to build the Hokies roster? And again, you mentioned balance a minute ago, the balance between high school and the portal, especially this year.
Yeah. So I've given you really long answers. This is going to be a short one. Good players.
It's all about them.
Yeah, we want good players. Like, you know, I say all the time, like, you know, when Michael Vick dropped back, you called a pass play and Michael Vick dropped back and the guys were covered and he got pressure. What'd he do?
Ran.
He ran for 50 yards, and the offensive coordinator is a genius. Like, when we called inside zone and handed the ball off to Saquon Barkley, I don't know why, but the same play worked different and better, right? So, like, we want to recruit as many really, really good players as we possibly can. We've put as many players in the NFL over my last 12 years as, you know, probably top 5 in the country. You think about the last 2 years, we had 2 first-rounders in both years. I think there's only a handful of programs in the country that have done that. So that's going to be part of what we're selling here, right? We got the Virginia Tech history, tradition, the passion that we have in the fan base with what we've been able to do in terms of developing players. And you combine those things and make it really, really attractive to families and kids that want to come here. But the other thing that I learned, I talked to the team about the other day, is last year I was part of a season that we played 16 games. Do you know the amount of depth and talent that you have to get through a 16-game season? So that's a challenge in college football now, is how do you not only acquire the talent, but also the depth? So we're going to work really hard at it. It starts in the state of Virginia, and then what I call the footprint, basically 6 hours from campus, but also the ability to go national when we have to.
You guys have been a recruiting machine. Is there a secret sauce that you guys use? Why have you been able to dominate, particularly this region in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the DMV?
So a couple things. I've worked at a ton of places that make sense to the state of Virginia. I was at Maryland for 8 years, 5 of that I think as the recruiting coordinator. Obviously Maryland's proximity to Virginia. I'm at Penn State, the proximity to Virginia. No disrespect to other times in other places, but there was a period where there were coaches in the state of Virginia that were not prioritizing the state of Virginia, in my opinion, from my lens. And to me, I don't care where you're at, you have got to own your own state. It starts there. How am I supposed to go to somebody else's state and get their best players if I'm not getting the best players out of my own state? So it starts there, right? And there needs to be an excitement. There needs to be a sense and a feeling that I can achieve all my dreams, goals, and aspirations individually and collectively as a team right here. I don't need to go anywhere else to do it. And what's better than doing it in front of everybody I love, right? Like, they don't have to fly across the country. They can get everything they want at Virginia Tech. I think it starts with that. And I've been fortunate to take advantage of that when that wasn't a priority at times. And again, I don't mean that. I'm not trying to take a shot or a knock at anybody, but I felt like that was the case for a number of years in Virginia, and we were able to capitalize on that.
I think we talked about this a lot, right? Mike and I would visit and we'd say, you know, why is Penn State getting, whether it's down to Penn State and Tech, Penn State and UVA, Penn State and Maryland, and it was an unconquered vista for a lot of coaches here. You guys have done an amazing job. Let me follow up one thing that I know Mike has a question as well. Any of the Penn State commits, whether they're from our state or that committed to you before, do you expect them to flip to Virginia Tech?
Well, first of all, I don't think I'm allowed to talk about recruits coming that haven't signed yet, so I have to be very careful that you're trying to get me an NCAA violation my first week. But yeah, I think this is what I would say. Like, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way at all, but like, we're going to sell Virginia Tech. But the reality is most of these kids and these parents, they're committing to people, right? Like, it's your son. Am I comfortable handing my son, I've poured 18 years into this young man, am I comfortable handing him over to this coach and this group of coaches that they are going to make sure that he comes out of this school better than when we dropped them off on campus? Virginia Tech's history, traditions, academic reputations play a big part, but at the end of the day, we all know it's about people. Lane Stadium is awesome, but at the end of the day, I don't care whether it's football or any other business or any other industry, it's about relationships and people. And that's what we are going to focus on while also selling all the wonderful things about Virginia Tech.
Getting an early start on this, how important is that to have a couple of weeks to kind of evaluate the team? And obviously the December signing day is coming up pretty quick.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I think, again, back to that plan with Virginia Tech, I think Virginia Tech understood the value of that. There's this weekend official visits, next weekend official visit, then it's over. Some of these jobs, they're not going to be full. They're going to lose this whole high school early signing period. So I think that goes back to Virginia Tech, I think had a plan of we want somebody in place if we can get the right person as soon as possible so we don't miss a whole year and are forced to really only do our recruiting through the transfer portal alone. So I think that's been really important. Also to evaluate the current roster also to evaluate the staff and who makes sense to stay. These guys have poured their hearts and souls into this program as well. And then obviously getting ready for the transfer portal, the retention of our current roster, and going out and finding some guys that may want to come from a number of schools.
Sure. That, by the way, that
and a number
window,
of places.
that window in January is shorter this year.
Very much so.
A lot of our fans probably don't read NCAA
Yeah.
rules and whatnot, but it's not the same in 26 as it was last year.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned staff. When do you think you'll have your staff in place? What are you looking for in your Virginia Tech staff?
Well, one of the things that I'd go back to the relationships aspect. I don't know if you guys know this. There's 8 of my staff already in that building working here. And that's something that I take a lot of pride in as well, right? Like there's 8 people here that I didn't tell them their title and I didn't tell them how much they're making. And I said, will you come and get to work and we'll figure that other stuff out later? And they came. The coaches, obviously, I want to be respectful of the players that I just left, and I want them to have a chance to finish the season. So I'm not doing anything there. And I also want to be very respectful of Coach Montgomery here and them finishing their season. So once the season's over, the regular season, then we'll start putting the coaching staff together. But the off-the-field staff, the recruiting, the administration, we're already rolling on.
What style of offense and defense do you envision for our fans? What are the Hokies going to look like maybe next fall?
So most importantly, I want the offense to score one more point than our defense gives up. I'd like our defense to hold them one less point than our offense can score. And I like special teams to complement both by putting them both in the best position to be successful, creating a long field for the defense, keeping a short field for the offense, and scoring points and creating explosive plays on special teams when we can. I also recognize this, right? Although a lot of times it's not looked at it this way, we are in the entertainment business, right? So you like an exciting, aggressive style of defense. I've talked about going against Bud Foster and his cover zero and, you know, how he was able to kind of put his brand on this place. And then the same thing on offense. You'd love to be high scoring and score a ton of points. We build it a little bit different at Penn State because of where we were at. You're dealing with a little bit more snow, you're dealing with a little bit more rain, you're dealing with a little bit more cold weather. So that factored into how we wanted to play and how we wanted to build it. I'd like to be a little bit more wide open. And there's a number of reasons for that. Not only to score points, but also to attract the best quarterbacks in the country, to attract the best receivers in the country. Because if you look in the NFL as well as college football, the receivers can change the game faster than anybody. They make one guy miss, go 80. The tailback's got to make 3 guys miss before going 80, right? So we want to attract those type of players. So that factors in to what we want to do. But if you're not careful, then you have the lead late in the game and you can't run the ball effectively. 4-minute offense, end the game on your terms. So there's got to be balance in what you're going to do, not only to win games and finish situational football, but also to prepare your defense. If your defense never goes against a power running attack during training camp or during spring ball, how do you get them ready for that type of opponent during the season? If they never get tempo and spread, how do you really get them ready for a tempo offense? You need to have these aspects of what you do, not only to win on Saturdays, but to prepare your guys throughout the year to win on Saturdays.
So, Coach, you said something Wednesday, so it sent me into the record books to look. You may not know this either. You will have coached in the SEC and the Big Ten and now the ACC. Only one other person has done that. Do you know who it is?
I have no idea.
Lou Holtz.
Ah.
You'll be the second person who has coached in those 3 leagues. You mentioned the things you learned in the other leagues that you'll bring here on Wednesday. Specifically, what do you think you can bring a little bit from Vandy, a little bit from State College that'll work here?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, and again, I think when people really know football and they study it, when we got to Vanderbilt had had 1 winning season in the 30 previous seasons before we got there. I don't think they had won 9 games since 1915. People forget now, which I'm very proud of. When we got to Penn State, the program was in bad shape. And people don't look at that place anymore that way, right? It's a program that people look at as a blue blood, a national contender. They're back viewed that way. So we take a lot of pride in that. So I view this as another build, right? There's some really good bones here, like we talked about already, but there's work that needs to be done. So there's lessons from Vanderbilt and how to build a roster and how to build a culture and how to build a program and facilities and all those types of things. And then, you know, when you talk about Penn State, you're talking about more of the new era of college football, figuring out the transfer portal, figuring out NIL, which is a headache. I had a full afro when I first went to Penn State before all those things happened. I didn't have this bald head, right? Or this gray hair.
I hear you.
Yeah, exactly. We all do. So understanding how to navigate those things. What I'm going to need your guys' help and everybody else, Whit and everybody else, is I don't have the institutional knowledge yet. I don't have the community knowledge yet. And I got to speed up my maturation process of that so I can take my experiences, combine that with the community and institutional knowledge so we can hit the ground running. So that's where retaining some staff, hiring some people that know Virginia Tech to help us, again, navigate this path as fast and as efficiently as we can.
We are not objective, right? Because we've been here forever. We think, and we know, and you'll feel it as well from others that have been here forever, it's such an amazing place. And we feel, all due respect to our other ACC colleagues, the league is there for the taking, and we can be a player here. You agree?
Yes, or I wouldn't have come, right? Yeah, I feel the same way, but like, we've done some really good things and they've had a plan, but it's my job to push, and I'm going to push everybody, right? Like the players, the coaches, all the people that I'm ultimately responsible for. But the reality is I'm going to push everybody. Like I need the fans to be as crazy as they've ever been. And I need the community to back this team in a way that they'd never have, or at least since Coach Beamer, right? I need all the high school coaches in the state to put some pressure on their kids to stay home and come to Tech. I need the math teacher who graduated from Tech to put pressure on the recruit that sits in the class. When I say pressure, I'm just saying selling Virginia Tech and the impact it had on their life. It's all of it. So yeah, I see the same thing, but there's a ton of work that still needs to be done, right? And we gotta attack it. We gotta attack it with everything we got, and we gotta be willing to compete in every single area. And I'm gonna need your guys' help. I'm gonna need all the people here's help that are recording this. We all got to be pulling the rope in the same direction. And since you're a former player, I'm definitely. You got any eligibility left?
Maybe a year, because
Okay.
you had the red shirt.
All right, good.
Freshman couldn't play. I was going to say
one more, because we're almost out of time here.
I know. Real quick though, you said you were a player's coach. I love to hear that. Obviously, I was playing back before you were born. But why is that so important today in today's landscape with all this stuff going on?
Because ultimately, I don't care what industry you're in, what business you're in, what era you coached in, it all comes back to relationships, right? People want to work in a healthy, positive relationship. And just because I say healthy and positive doesn't mean it's always puppies and rainbows. You can have a healthy relationship and there be conflict if it's respectable, right? Me and my wife, we don't always get along about everything, but we do it in a respectful way. She disagrees with me on things, I disagree with her on things, we talk that through. And it's the same way with your football family, right? Like, I'm gonna love these guys and put my arm around and be excited when they make big plays. I'm an emotional guy. But when they also do something wrong, I'm gonna lose it, right? They're gonna know. If they don't go to class, they won't like me very much. If they treat someone poorly in the community, in this town, I'm probably gonna find out, or I'm gonna get an email or text message, someone's gonna let me know. They won't like me very much. I'm gonna coach them hard, I'm gonna love them hard. And I also think that shows up when guys have a chance to maybe go somewhere else in the transfer portal and they say, well, these coaches love me and these coaches are invested in me and I can achieve everything I want here at Virginia Tech. So it's how I'm going to operate either way, but it's also good business too.
James, it's great to have you here.
You as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Look forward to working with you. And that does it for today's edition of Level 7.
I got one last question.
Go,
And
go.
I'm probably not supposed to do that
Do
after.
it.
Like blocking tight end, receiving tight
did
end,
both.
In line, off the line. Like what's your specialty?
I did both because I was here for Jerry Claiborne, and he believed throwing the football, 3 things can happen and 2 are bad.
2 are bad. I've heard
So
that
then
before.
Charlie Coffey came in with Dan Henning, and we threw the ball all over the yard. So I caught a bunch of passes. So I did both.
Okay, so
I'm
don't
amphibious.
be surprised. Who do we open up with next year?
At the moment, it's VMI.
Okay, so when we open up against VMI and my man's got a package in the game, don't be surprised.
I love it.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.